of the biggest complaints about Jiraiya's time training Naruto between the events of Naruto Volume 27 and Volume 28 is that during the 2.5 years that Naruto trained under Jiraiya, many people say he didn't really learn much except for how to make a bigger Rasengan, which when compared to Sasuke's 2.5 years training under Orochimaru, or even Tsunade's 3 years directly training Sakura, Naruto's progress didn't stand out quite as much. To many fans, it was disappointing. However, what if during the 2.5 year time skip this wasn't the case? What if during the 2.5 year time skip Jiraiya trained Naruto on how to use Sage Mode? How would the Naruto story change? Would things end it for better or would they end it for worse? Well, in today's edition of Naruto What If, we're going to take a look at just that. So in order for this to happen, we must first establish a trigger point, a change to a fixed point in the timeline, and I can see no better moment than when Jiraiya attempted to teach Naruto how to use the Nine Tails chakra, and Four Tails Naruto almost killed Jiraiya in the process. Originally, after this failed attempt at teaching Naruto how to control the Kyuubi, Jiraiya altered the purpose of their training and focused more on building on what they'd already done, which is reteach Naruto the basics of stuff that the big dummies should have already known, like how to break out a genjutsu. And Jiraiya during this time worked with Naruto on how to create that much anticipated giant Rasengan. However, in this timeline, Jiraiya would see that Naruto, at least at this point in time, was utterly hopeless at trying to master Nine Tails chakra, and the idea would come to him to have Naruto undergo Sage Mode training by taking him to Mount Miyaboku. This would be some pretty drastic changes to the timeline, to be certain. The first would be Jiraiya would have a fire lit underneath him when he sees Naruto achieve the pigment rings around his eyes. Something we're told in the manga is the sign of a perfect sage and surpasses Jiraiya in Sage Mode. Which, reminder, the Toads actually get onto Jiraiya for not being able to go into Sage Mode on his own without their assistance. Revisiting the basics alongside Naruto, I believe would be enough to have Jiraiya actually become a perfect sage himself without the need to have the two Toads on his sides. Where we run into an issue is that during this time, Naruto would have a bit of a harder time during the final step of mastering Sage Mode for combat purposes, because Kurama would still interfere with Naruto's attempts to have Paw Toad attach himself to the shoulder to draw in nature energy during combat situations. However, I do believe at some point during this, there is actually a decent chance that Jiraiya comes to the same conclusion that Kakashi did when it comes to training Naruto, which is that Naruto's monster chakra reserves allow for him to take the more unorthodox methods that other people can't normally do. While it wouldn't be something that Jiraiya thinks of right away, I do think that at some point he comes to this conclusion, and when this happens, this drastically affects the entire Naruto timeline. Naruto comes back from the 2.5 year time skip in Konoha, a much bigger problem for Kakashi during the Bell test. After Kakashi starts out toying around with Naruto and Sakura, Naruto would take advantage of the forest being quiet in the training grounds to have a shadow clone planted while he and Sakura randomly engage with Kakashi in battle, and eventually dispel one of the clones to enter into Sage Mode midway through fighting with Kakashi and take him down, overwhelming the Sharingan Aya Insight with the Frog Kumite and snatching away the bells that Kakashi was holding. While this Sage Mode Naruto wouldn't be as strong as the Sage Mode Naruto fought against Pain, because his base would be considerably weaker at this point in the timeline than when he fought Pain, which by extension makes his Sage Mode weaker. This version of Sage Mode Naruto would be more than enough to create an opening to snatch the bells himself, or create an opening for Sakura to snatch the bells for herself. The events of the Kazekage rescue arc, they would be much the same. Gar would still be captured by Deidara, and Team 7 would be sent on that mission to go to save Gar. However, where I see there being a bit of a difference here is that Naruto should be a bit more calm compared to how he was in the original timeline, where he was a raging idiot, because in the original timeline, Naruto got super emotional, raced after Deidara without thinking. This Naruto has undergone Sage Mode training and he has mastered it, which means he should have better control over his emotions now, because all those hours of deep meditation should have put him in more control over those emotional triggers. I do still think Kakashi and Naruto will be giving chase after Deidara, with Kakashi using his Mangekyo Sharingan to warp away Deidara's arm in the process. But in this timeline, when Naruto jumps on Deidara from his blind spot, Naruto wouldn't be cloaked in Kyuubi chakra. He'd be in Sage Mode with that burning but controlled rage adding to his strength. In this version of Sage Mode, Naruto's more than enough to take down Deidara, especially with Kakashi there to assist him in battle. The duo would be able to defeat Deidara well before he would even attempt to self-destruct using C0, particularly if Naruto's able to summon Mob Plateau and use Frog Song Genjutsu to take out Deidara, which should be effective since Deidara only built himself up against visual Genjutsu and not sound-based Genjutsu. From here, things do progress somewhat the same. Chio would still give up her life to revive Gar from death, but with Deidara being captured, this changes the timeline in a major way. Originally, the Akatsuki, they proved to be too much of a problem for Konoha in that they were trying to capture members alive and get information out of them. But in each battle where Konoha Shinobi went against the Akatsuki, things always result in death for either the Konoha side or the Akatsuki members. In this timeline, Team Kakashi and Team Guy would return to Konoha very victorious, handing over Deidara to Ibiki in order to be interrogated, likely with chakra suppressing seals so he can't blow himself up, and Tsunade would have more leverage in her debate with the elders when it came to adding a fourth member to Kakashi's Team 7. Because as a reminder, they still only had 3 members, Kakashi, Naruto, and Sakura, because Sasuke was playing hide the snake with Orochimaru. Also, in this timeline, due to Kakashi likely not being forced to use Kamui and not have to end up in the hospital, Konoha has actually captured a member of the Akatsuki, the elders. They won't be able to push Sai on a Team 7. Instead, with Kakashi fully healthy, Tsunade will be able to call up Yamato from the Anbu Black Ops, specifically as additional insurance in the off chance that Naruto were to lose control of the Nine Tails, and the elders would have no way of countering her suggestion. This, of course, also leads to a major change in the timeline. Sai will remain in Danzo's root organization to be used as Danzo sees fit because he no longer has the leverage to have Sai placed on Team 7 due to Kakashi being healthier and Yamato actually being more useful than Sai would be. However, due to Danzo already having plans to have Sai sent to Orochimaru, I do still believe Sai would be dispatched in secret to trail Team 7 from afar, since the team would be sent to Tenchi Bridge to meet Sasori Spy, which unbeknownst to them would have been Kabuto. I still think Naruto loses control when Orochimaru begins to confront him about Sasuke, even though this Naruto is more poised. But in this timeline, Kakashi would be able to place that seal onto Naruto, which would suppress the Nine Tails chakra when Naruto got into that Four Tail state. While Sakura watched over Naruto until he could regain his senses, Kakashi would battle against Orochimaru, paying off their first encounter from Naruto Part 1, where Kakashi tried to protect Sasuke from Orochimaru back in the Chunin exams, and Kabuto would battle against Yamato. While this Orochimaru is at a disadvantage in that he's not at his full power since the third Hokage sealed away most of his jutsu in the Reaper Death God, considering he was playing around with Four Tails Naruto in the original timeline, he should be able to hold off Kakashi though. Kakashi was able to use Kamui. That would be very problematic for Orochimaru, but I don't think he's dumb enough to sit there and allow Kakashi to gather chakra uninterrupted to pull off Kamui, since in this part of the timeline, Kakashi still needs a long period of time to perform the jutsu with this Mangekyo Sharingan because it's still rather new to him. By the time Kakashi versus Orochimaru and Yamato versus Kabuto and those battles escalate, the chakra seal on Naruto should have already taken effect and he would have regained his senses. And he would have had time to go into Sage Mode between Sakura helping Yamato and Sage Mode Naruto helping Kakashi. There's enough to force Orochimaru and Kabuto into retreat if they aren't defeated. At this point, Naruto senses a third chakra headed towards Orochimaru, that chakra being Sai. Team 7 intercepts and Kakashi realizes that Sai has the information on the Anbu Black Ops that report to Tsunade. Kakashi places Sai on the Genjutsu. The moment that they interrogate him, the seal on Sai's tongue goes off because he can't say anything about Danzo, incapacitating Sai. Team 7 will restrain the unconscious Sai and take them with them to Orochimaru's hideout, where they would quickly incapacitate Kabuto, and Naruto using Sage Mode will be able to track down Sasuke, cutting down the time that they spend looking for Sasuke in Orochimaru's hideout, which leads to Sasuke versus Team 7. During this battle, Sasuke would have to go into his curse mark state 2 in order to fight this version of Sage Mode Naruto. Again, this is not Sage Mode Naruto as strong as he would be in the Pain arc, but he would be strong enough to push Sasuke to that level of power that would eventually lead to Orochimaru showing up and Orochimaru having recovered Kabuto would force Sasuke to retreat, at which point Team 7 would return back to Konoha. Upon returning, Tsunade, like likely blows a lid at how upset she is with Danzo overstepping his bounds to try and kill Sasuke behind her back. But considering there wasn't much blowback in the manga as a result of this, I'm assuming Tsunade's hands are tied by the elders in this scenario, since Sasuke is technically a rogue ninja, and Sai is likely punished by Danzo en route, assuming he's returned to them in the first place. Kakashi would be able to start the training of Naruto sooner in this timeline, due to not needing to rest in the hospital like he did originally, since he hasn't used Kamui multiple times in this timeline, which again, we're going to assume that he hasn't. This means that by the time that Asuma is killed by fighting Hidan, Naruto will be much further along in the creation of the Rasengan that uses wind release. The wind release Rasengan, not to be confused with the wind release Rasen Shuriken, two different jutsu. If this does end up being the case, I believe that by the time that Team 10 goes out to hunt down Kakuzu and Hidan, Naruto would have actually completed the wind release Rasen Shuriken and the wind release Rasengan, and Naruto would have already thought to use Sage Mode to throw the wind release Rasen Shuriken. I believe Naruto would have tried and failed to throw the jutsu until he got it done correct during the training. Team 7, accompanying Kakashi, and Team 10 changes the entire battle with Hidan and Kakuzu, especially since Naruto can actually throw Rasen Shuriken and detonate it now. Originally, Kakashi had to babysit Team 10, particularly Choji and Ino, who were useless in that fight, all while battling Hidan and Kakuzu simultaneously by himself. In this timeline, he's got Naruto and Yamato there to back him up in the Kakuzu fight, and Naruto going into Sage Mode tips the scales even more into their odds, making it easier to kill each of Kakuzu's hearts, particularly when Naruto starts throwing Rasen Shurikens, even though there is still a chance that the jutsu might have a 50% failure rate like it did at this point in the timeline, but we're going to assume that Naruto has fully mastered it, which means they take down Kakuzu and Hidan a lot easier, and Naruto isn't injured as a result. Where there's another major change in the timeline is Deidara being captured and held in Konoha for 6 months is more than enough time for someone like Ibiki to break him down, even if Deidara pulls off a Kisame and he bites off his own tongue. Inoichi Yamanaka can read the memories of someone via the Yamanaka clan's hidden jutsu like he did on one of the bodies of the Six Paths of Pain, so it doesn't matter if Deidara kills himself, he can still read his memories. It will be via that information that Jiraiya will be in for shock when Inoichi tells him the names of the Akatsuki members, and he hears Konan's name and hears how she's been described and hears that one of the members of the Akatsuki has spiral purple eyes. Jiraiya would know that it's the Rinnegan. This would cut down immensely on all the spy work that Jiraiya has been doing looking into the Akatsuki before its death. Hearing Konan's name, hearing how Inoichi describes how she and the Deva Path looks, it'll be enough for him to realize that the thoughts he had of the war orphans dying, they were all wrong, and hearing of the spiral-shaped eyes of the Akatsuki leader would remind him of the Rinnegan, which would rattle him to his core. However, knowing this information would also mean he would know that the Akatsuki was indeed operating out the Rain Village and know exactly why, and this would give him time to truly prepare for an assault on the Rain Village. Jiraiya would not go into the Rain Village alone. Meanwhile, Sasuke would still kill Orochimaru and absorb his body, and Tsunade likely still allows for Itachi's pursuit team to track down Itachi, so that'd be Team Kurenai as well as Team Kakashi, but with Naruto using Sage Mode as possible, they're able to track down Sasuke and Team Taka before they get there, unless Itachi intervenes, which I think is likely since Itachi at this point in the timeline was dead set on dying at Sasuke's hands. The only problem here is that while this is going on, there's another event that's occurring that we have to remember. I think where there's a major change is that Jiraiya doesn't go into the Rain Village alone. Knowing what he's up against, Jiraiya likely takes Tsunade up on her offer to join him to go to the village, but with the condition that if anything goes wrong, Tsunade returns to the village, no questions asked, since she is the Hokage. The presence of Tsunade being right there, it makes a huge difference in the battle, especially once she breaks the seal on her forehead and she uses the Byakugo seal in combat where she gets that huge strength increase. She's more than enough on her own using that level of power to buy Jiraiya time needed to go into Sage Mode, and by the time the two of them easily take down Konan in battle, forcing Konan to go retreat to Nagato's main body, the duo of Jiraiya and Byakugo Seal Tsunade being backed up with the assistance of Manpa Toad and whatever summonings Jiraiya is using would be able to take down the Six Paths of Pain when they fight. And even though this would be a 6 versus 2 battle, potentially even Jiraiya and Tsunade having the numbers advantage when they use their various summonings like Katsuyu and all the different toads Jiraiya can use, it means that Jiraiya never gets penetrated by those long and thick black rods that Pain swings swings around like he was somebody penetrating an OnlyFans model on camera. I do believe that the presence of another capable fighter there, and one as smart as Tsunade, it would make a lot of difference here, because Jiraiya, being the bumbling idiot that he was still able to figure out some of the jutsu, and most importantly, he was able to kill some of the pains on his own. Tsunade, being smarter than Jiraiya and smarter than Shizune, would be able to figure out the truth about the chakra receivers, and she would suggest removing the rods from the bodies of the pains after they took them out. This would be where our next major change would occur. Jiraiya and Tsunade would be the ones confronting Nagato instead of Naruto at this point in the timeline, and this is where things get very, very interesting. Nagato, by fighting in the Rain Village, was already at a handicap because he's not going to use Chibaku Tensei and destroy part of his village in order to secure a victory. While there exists the possibility of Nagato shooting off the chakra rods when he gets confronted by Tsunade and Jiraiya, I do think it's worth noting information that we have from the Naruto epilogue story, Akatsuki Hiden, Evil Flowers in Full Bloom, where we learned that Nagato, before Yahiko's death, did want to visit Jiraiya, but only after they took down Hanzo, to show the peace that they brought to the Rain Village, and that it was his desire to keep this a secret. I do think Jiraiya would be able to wax some very poetic talk no jutsu onto Nagato, forcing him to see the error of his ways, because Jiraiya's approach would be different now that he knows that Nagato is the leader of the Akatsuki, his prized pupil, the child of prophecy he thought would stop all fighting. At this point, it really comes down to, do you think Jiraiya's words can reach his fallen student, or was Nagato too far gone? I personally view it as being the former, because Naruto redeeming Nagato is proof that this wasn't the case of him being too far gone to be redeemed. The right set of words could actually reach someone like Nagato. A peaceful surrender of Nagato and Konan changes things in a major way for the timeline, particularly as Tsunade as Hokage promises to use her leverage as Hokage to both offer assistance to the Rain Village and help rebuild things, and bring Danzo forward for his past transgressions by working with Hanzo for the murder of Yahiko, which I do think is possible. With Nagato conceding, there's a major problem here. It's important to remember that in chapter 383 of the manga, we learned that Zetsu was watching the Jiraiya versus Pain battle the entire time, and he only left because he knew that Sasuke versus Itachi was getting very close to beginning. It's possible that Zetsu, upon seeing that Nagato was falling victim to talk no jutsu, does the same thing that you and I do, or rather that you do, because when I see Naruto doing talk no jutsu, I cut out the episode or I skip ahead on the chapter. Instead, Zetsu would say, nope, this ain't happening, and he goes to retrieve Obito, and this is where we get to a major crossroads. Obito at this point in time was stalling the Itachi pursuit team, trolling them like, oh, look at me, senpai, I'm a cute little bunny girl, and then he just slapped somebody in the face. Obito did all that trickery in order to keep them from getting in the way of the Sasuke versus Itachi fight. The prospect of losing the Rinnegan to Konoha, it would be something that Obito would not allow to happen. This leads to one of two things occurring. Either the Itachi pursuit team, they reach Sasuke's location, or Obito just kills everyone on the spot, then goes directly to Jiraiya and Tsunade and Konan and Nagato and just does what he has to do. In my opinion, given how dire the situation, I think Obito splits the baby here. I think he tells Zetsu to inform Kisame and Team Taka that Konoha shinobi are coming and that they need to stop them, and Obito goes to the Hidden Rain Village to try and clean up the mess. While Kisame and Team Taka battle the Itachi pursuit team with Sage Mode Naruto and Kakashi having to hard carry the entire process of that fight. But Obito nonetheless has his hands full, because the moment he shows up, Jiraiya is likely already aware that there's someone pulling the strings behind the Akatsuki here, and this becomes a hell of a battle for Obito. Let's be real for a second. Konan, Nagato, Byakugo Seal Tsunade, and Sage Mode Jiraiya, a perfect Sage Mode Jiraiya, with Manpa Toad somewhere in the background as well. They give Jiraiya and company a huge edge, and they give Orange Mask Obito one huge problem. Since we don't know exactly when Konan planted the paper bombs in the Rain Village, I'm just gonna assume that they were not set in place here. But Konan by herself, in the original timeline, when she fought Obito, she gave Obito some trouble before having to resort to something like using those paper bombs. Where things get even more interesting is that Konan already knew the weakness of the Kamui. So Jiraiya and Nagato, they would know the weakness to Obito's Mangekyo Sharingan ability. They would know how to exploit it, especially with Tsunade having healed everyone up to 100%, right before this happens most likely, or doing so while all the fighting's taking place. Nagato has a couple of options in this scenario. He could draw on chakra from Tsunade and her 100 healings the way that Sakura did when she applied that chakra to assist Obito in Naruto Volume 71 when Obito was opening up Kaguya's dimensions. Nagato could draw on Tsunade's 100 healings chakra to get more access to mobility into his legs, and if that happens, Orange Mask Obito goes down here. If Jiraiya has some of his toads put the chakra rods back into the bodies of the Six Paths of Pain, it leads to Orange Mask Obito going down here because they have intel on how Kamui works, and the Six Paths of Pain being able to help out in that fight, it tips the scales further in the battle. Given the combatants and the fact that Jiraiya has sound-based genjutsu at his disposal, I do think that Obito falls in battle here. I don't see him escaping the fight itself. Now, this is obviously big for a few big reasons for the timeline. Sage Mode, Naruto, and Kakashi, they're going to take down Kisame. The rest of the Itachi Pursuit team is going to be able to take down the members of Team Taka, though it'll be with high difficulty, in particular when it comes to Jugo. Hinata probably leaves this fight with a huge black eye somewhere, and Shino probably gets a beetle shoved up his ass, which means that the team is going to be able to get to Sasuke in the aftermath of the Itachi fight. This obviously leads to some bigger changes in the timeline, with Obito being defeated with ceiling tags on him to block him from using the Sharingan powers. With this turn of events, the timeline as we know it is basically blown up. Pain's invasion of Konoha, it never happens, and the same with the Fourth Great Ninja War. The Akatsuki, they've essentially been defeated. Obito's mask gets ripped off while he's being put in prison, and Kakashi has a mental breakdown, seeing his childhood friend was the one behind the Akatsuki, and Obito, like a mentally challenged person, keeps saying it's because you let Rin die. Kabuto is eventually hunted down and brought to justice by Konoha Shinobi, who can focus in solely on Kabuto now, with someone like Kakashi actually striking down Kabuto, which means that Kabuto never actually fully masters the Edo Tensei. Danzo's Hokage dream, they get crushed because Tsunade is stronger politically more than ever. Sasuke being back in Konoha gets celebrated as a hero, and when he does take Itachi's eyes to get the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, the crow pops out of Naruto's eye and places Koto Matsukami onto Sasuke and makes Sasuke loyal to Konoha as a result, since Itachi programmed the Koto Matsukami to work at the site of his Mangekyo. Of course, if Sasuke ever decides to train his Mangekyo Sharingan with Kakashi at the site of Kakashi's Sharingan, the Matarasu transcript seal that Itachi placed into Sasuke would go off because it's programmed to go off at the site of Obito's Sharingan, which Kakashi technically has. So Kakashi theoretically could die at any point in this timeline if this happens before Sasuke gets Itachi's eyes transplanted into him. Otherwise, Sasuke's gonna be grilling up some Kakashi burgers. But we're gonna assume happy ending. Sasuke never actually looks at Kakashi with the Sharingan uncovered, and he transplants the eyes of Itachi into his body right away. The crow pops up out of Naruto. Sasuke becomes a good guy, and somewhere Zetsu is fuming because everything that he schemed and plotted to try and have Kage brought back to life just blows up in his face, and Zetsu has to spend the rest of his life on the run, hoping he's not hunted down, and try to find another way to bring back Kaguya. While the cycle of reincarnate hatred isn't necessarily broken, it has been delayed, which is another drawback to all of this. Naruto never actually gets celebrated as a hero of Konoha. Due to where we are in the timeline, the Six-Tails Jinchuuriki would actually still be alive. Killer Bee, the Eight-Tails Jinchuuriki, never gets attacked by the Katsuki either. Where things get tricky is how does Tsunade handle Danzo and making things right with the Rain Village, and that whole situation with Nagato, because there are promises that have to be kept. I could see Nagato being placed with life imprisonment and Konan being allowed to stay in the Rain Village as a result of being on probation, similar to the one that Sasuke got for his redemption. Nagato's Rinnegan is likely sealed away as well by sealing tags as he's placed into prison, if not having the eyes just outright taken from him. In the years that follow, Naruto likely stumbles and bumbles his way trying to master the Nine Tails power, but due to the other half of the Nine Tails being in the Reaper Death God, Naruto never gets the yin half of Kurama, making him far weaker even if he does master Kurama. While the ninja world would no longer have the Akatsuki to worry about, they would still be in open cold warfare. As a result of this, with only the Hidden Leaf Village and the Hidden Sand Village actually being on good terms, due to Kaguya never getting revived. Toneri, if we take what he said in Naruto last at face value, he never attempts to destroy the earth, but he might pay Hinata a late night visit when he gets tired of watching her from afar while he's standing lonely on the moon lusting after her, hoping that she would be his bride, which if that happens, there isn't anyone on the planet who can stand up to him. But that brings me to the question, how do you guys see Toneri's next step? Does he stay on the moon since Kaguya wasn't reborn? Or does he make it a point to still come to Earth, trying to take Hanabi's eyes and make Hinata his bride? Because Toneri wants the Hinata greatness. As for all the other potential timelines like Naruto learning the flying Raijin, you'll want to click on the Naruto What If playlist you see on the screen.